All right, what's happening, crew? Welcome back to the mountain bike capital of the world, Bentonville, Arkansas. It's time for another Ride Series MTB Skills Clinics how-to. And this one, man, I'm gonna apologize because this should have been the first video that we ever did, because I think this is the most important element to riding the bike and riding the bike well. So what is it? Well, it's the first thing we talk about at the Ride Series MTB Skills Clinics. It's body position. So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna break down what we think at the Ride Series is the most effective body position and why. Are you ready? Okay, this won't come as a surprise to anybody who's been watching any of my videos. I preach this over and over and over again. So what is that position that we're talking about? That position is centered over the bike. So we like to call it centered over the bottom bracket. Now, Fazzari spent a lot of money and time engineering this Delano Peak. And they've engineered this bike, as has every other bike manufacturer, for the bike to work best with the center of mass over the center of the bike. Now, you are the center of mass. So when you are on the bike, the best place you can be is centered over the bike. You want to be in that position for as long as you possibly can be. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, well, wait a minute, man, what if it gets steep and gnar and I have to get way in the back? Then get back, but only get back when you need to. The longer you can wait to do that, the better you are going to be. A couple of things that we want to think about. First is the bike is engineered to have the center of mass over the center of bike. So especially on a full suspension bike, but even on a hardtail or a rigid. The more centered I am, the more I load the bike through the center, the better it is going to behave, the better the suspension and the kinematics are going to work. The second thing is the front wheel is the wheel of influence. So I need to have enough weight on the front of the bike for the wheel of influence to do its job. So again, when you get scared, you start to creep back. Now, a lot of you out there, you drive cars. So my question to you is, do you drive your car in the back seat? The answer is no. You don't. So don't ride your bike from the back seat. So finding a way to stay centered as long as you possibly can is going to have you in a position, I think, for the best outcome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll down to this spot right here, and it happens to be downhill. It happens to have some rocks, and it happens to have multiple shelves and multiple drops. So it's a spot-on train. So if you've ridden in the mountain bike capital of the world here in Bentonville, you probably have seen this. It just recently went through a complete revamp. They didn't touch that. And honestly, it's not bad. It's not a bad section, and it's fairly easy to navigate if you really understand what's happening. Now, what we've seen, our anecdotal subset of evidence, is people come in and either they haven't really looked at it, they haven't pre-ridden, re-ridden to free ride, or they just come in and their mind goes blank. What you need to do is, you need to come in, you should know what's ahead of you, but you need to come in that proper body position. And so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna run through multiple times, we're gonna get some slow-mo shots, and we're gonna talk through what that body position looks like and why we need to be in that position. Let's go. Okay, so we're down here, we're at the first of, I think, what's 4 or 5 drops. And what's pretty rad about this is I know some of you out there are watching and your hands are shaking a little bit because you're like, oh, I know that spot. I actually got spat over the bars on that spot. You're not the only one, a lot of people have. And what it comes back to is, it's very simple. Physics, gravity, body position. And part of it too kind of brings in my drop technique or the drop technique I use because it's not my technique. You need to be centered over the bike, plain and simple. So when you get here, what I want to think about as I come into this section right here is I want to try to have my hips centered over the bike, and I want to be low because my center of mass lower is going to be better. So when I come in to this position or this spot on the trail, I'm roughly right here. So my hips are centered over the bike fore and aft, and they're actually fairly low. I got probably a couple of inches movement, and then I have my elbows up. So for me, very important, I have a lot of mechanisms when I ride. And one of those mechanisms, very important to me, is this right here. My elbows and my forearms in line with the forks. This is all about leverage. So if I can think about in situations like this, not always, but in situations like this, if my elbows are up and out, what I can do is move the bike. I have great leverage to move the bike. We call it give and take, or row, anti-row. So once you have the ability to do that, once you understand that and you're centered, the bike can actually move underneath you. So hopefully this is starting to make sense. Now, why is getting back the worst thing to do? When you come into something like this and you're fearful, your natural instinct is to get back. So if you come in and you're back here and the bike drops off this, if your arms straighten out, that pulls your torso. So then my weight comes forward. I weigh significantly more than the bike. So if I come in and I manage my torso, so check this out. If I come in and I'm right here and the bike drops away, look at this. I still have all that movement in my arms that I can give. So what I want to be able to do is use all of this. I can't do that if my chest is high or my hips are back. I always want to try to stay centered. Think about it this way. If that gets steeper and steeper and steeper, my hips will slowly go further and further back. You can always incrementally move back. It's pretty damn difficult to try to slide your hips forward. It's not natural, and it's not something your brain wants you to do. So hopefully now, that all is starting to make sense. But what does it look like? What does it look like when we're actually doing it? There's a couple things to think about. The slower you go, the more time you'll have to do that. But I am gonna argue it's a pendulum. Too slow is not going to work, especially here, because when there's those shelves that drop off, if you go too slow, the bike starts doing this. What you wanna try to do is skip across those shelves. So find the speed that makes sense, but still a speed that's low enough where you're not getting scared, because you have to be in that position. Then, the faster you go, the quicker that movement, that row, anti-row, or give and take is gonna be. Okay, I come in scared, weight's back, front's dropping, potential for danger. Some of you are watching this, and some of you, I think you understand it's what you're doing. Some of you, maybe you don't understand it's what you're doing, but you really need to think about staying centered, or think of it this way. Be in a position fore and aft that allows you to give and take enough with your arms that they're not fully collapsed or fully extended. That's another way to think about it. Okay, so this time, I'm gonna bring the speed up a tiny bit, but I'm gonna be more centered over the bike so I can let that Zeb eat those rocks. Come in, center. So I've been trying to do it the wrong way as well as I can. So hopefully that's resonating. But again, what it comes back to is don't let your arms slacken out. So when your arms get straight because your torso's back, that wants to pull your torso. And in a situation like this, careful with the front brake. So I see a lot of people come in and they're hard on the front brake. So every time the front bounces, the brake's catching and trying to push them over the bars. Feather into that rear brake. And if you stay lower, you won't have to slow down as much. So think about that. I got this amazing RockShox Zeb up here on the front, but it doesn't like this. If I'm more further forward and my weight's down, I can bounce through. Now, a couple caveats here, because I've experienced a lot of this. For everybody out there who's watching, I appreciate it. But for those of you who are looking for that specific moment to freeze it, to argue or counterpoint what I'm saying, please don't do that, because I'm not going to engage you. I'm here to tell you what I do. If you disagree, awesome, I love it. There's probably 10, 15 more videos out there that'll tell you another way. This is my way, this is my opinion. People have a bunch of different opinions. Now, with this, my hips do get way back at certain points, and they have to. You have to understand, I wanna stay centered as long as I can, but as I'm blasting off this and the bike's going down, my hips will look further back in space, but they're still roughly centered over the bike. Now, I'm 5'10", so when I do something like this, My goal is to squat as much as I can. If you're like 6'3" or like Brock 6'11", when you're that tall, you have no choice but to hinge more. So your hips are gonna come back. It's all relative. When you watch me go through in slow-mo with what I say is the right way, I'm not saying you need to look exactly like that. You need to look as much as you can look centered over the bike. That's what it comes down to, baby. Wear what you dig. All right, crew, there you go. Another one in the books, this one on body position. So I said it in the beginning, one of the most important things that we can talk about at the Ride Series is body position. Centered over the bottom bracket is the best place you can be. Be there for as long as possible. Now, you're gonna have to move back. Your hips will go back. I understand that, but just wait till they need to go back. And if you're a taller rider, remember, you're gonna hinge a little bit more. If you're a shorter rider, try to squat a little bit. So hopefully we got enough slow-mo video that it made sense. The spot we used is great because a lot of people have issues there. The idea is for you to understand, but then find a place where you can chill out, get comfortable, and try to stay more centered over the bike. The key is put yourself in a position to work that balanced center spot on the bike. You got to do that somewhere you're comfortable. Now, if you want to come out to your Ride Series MTB Skills Clinic and do it, we'd love to have you. Check out the website below, rideseriesmtb.com. Got a few more events this year, and then 22 will ramp up from coast to coast. In addition, if you want to come out to the mountain bike capital of the world, Bentonville, Arkansas, do some on-trail coaching or some guiding, hit us up, info at the Ride Series MTB. All right, that's it, we're done, we're wrapped. I'm excited about that one. Drop some comments below, as long as they're positive. Let's ease up on the beating me down over the technique. This is my opinion, okay? I'm not saying this is exactly how you have to do it. Just trying to be an asset, be somebody to help you, I don't know, maybe get a little bit more confident, try something a little bit different and see if it works. So yeah, we're gonna go get an Onyx shake and film another video. So peace out, dumpers.